Anishinaabe Nation is exploring community-based solutions to the housing crisis on First Nation communities. Chiefs and councillors, elders, and infrastructure professionals gathered in Thunder Bay this week at the first ever NAN Housing Summit. Mike Lang reports.
The Anishinaabe Nation has launched a 3-year project to make housing safer and healthier in First Nations communities. More than 7,500 homes are currently needed across NAN's 51 communities. A 2-day housing summit wrapped up on Wednesday at the Nor'Wester Hotel. NAN Housing Director Michael McKay says the plan is to identify the specific needs of each community, collaborate with the provincial and federal governments for support and additional funding, and increase housing capacity with the help of infrastructure professionals.
We're really supporting the community's self-determination of creating their own housing system to provide those tools and resources to help them with developing their own housing system.
Infrastructure professionals spoke about how the housing strategy will be executed and fielded questions from community representatives in the audience. There were also panels and workshops and networking opportunities for communities to share ideas.
Communities could work together if they're, as an example, in the same winter road corridor, bulk purchasing. Maybe the other thing would be preparing of applications to funding programs. There was a lot of communities in the NAN territory that were successful with it, but they did have their challenges and with that, but there were some success stories we covered.
Mike Lang, TBT News.
Lakehead University and the Thunder Bay DSAB released a report on migration and homelessness. The study highlights the fact that 60% of people experiencing homelessness in the city migrated from somewhere else. The primary purpose of the research was to understand why so many people experiencing homelessness in the city seem to migrate from out of town or out of the province by asking 7 research questions through the process. To answer those questions, 3 methods of research were conducted, including point-in-time count, which saw 98 responses, a shelter survey, which saw 120 responses, and 17 one-on-one interviews. Faculty of Health and Behavioral Sciences Assistant Professor Ravi Gokani says the study results show that 69% of migration from neighboring districts comes from First Nation communities, with 77% of those surveyed being from Treaty 3 or Treaty 9, and that 54% of people surveyed come from neighboring districts.
The 2018 pit count found that about 20% of people from outside of province, but the study that we did found that a majority of people were actually migrating from a neighboring district. So we find that Kenora, Rainy River, Cochrane is where most of the people have migrated from.
The study also shows that 43% of those surveyed migrated to Thunder Bay for family, friends, or a sense of community, while 22% migrated to the city for employment or education. And with all this new data now collected, the DSAB's Ken Ranta says undertaking the process and getting the results helps them make plans going forward.
Variety of responses that we've got and the direction that it points us in allows us to work with partners both locally and throughout Ontario to look at different opportunities, not only to reduce the number of homeless in Thunder Bay, but to meet the needs of individuals where they are so that they don't leave a home situation to become homeless.
Ranta says he is presenting the information to the DSAB board later this week. For anyone wanting to know more, you can read the full report at lakeheadu.ca. It was an exciting week for Wake the Giant as the organizers were granted $50,000 from the Canada Post Community Foundation. It's the first year the Postal Service has awarded its Truth and Reconciliation Signature Grant. Wake the Giant was recognized for its impact on Indigenous youth in Thunder Bay. A check presentation was held on Tuesday between representatives from Wake the Giant and Canada Post, with students from Dennis Franklin Cromartie High School attending as well. Canada Post raises money through the release of special stamps every year, with $1 from each pack of stamps going towards the foundation. Canada Post Rob Lackey spoke about why the Wake the Giant was so deserving of the money.
To me, it's all about gathering, as well as the musicians that come together for Wake the Giant festival. It's so big, and again, a lot of impact for sure. And that's why we want to make sure that the money goes to a great organization such as them.
I think a lot of it will go towards the workshops and some of the training behind there, getting that designed. But all of it helps a great cause and ultimately helps the youth get accustomed to the city.
Wake the Giant is a year-round initiative that culminates in a 2-day celebration each September for Indigenous youth from 24 remote communities. And that wraps up this edition of Northwest Newsweek.